All right? Before I write that speech, I want to make sure I understand your intent clearly. The phrase, stop being nice to women, can be interpreted in different ways. Some interpretations could cross into disrespectful or harmful territory, which I can't create content for. If your intent is to deliver a motivational speech that means something like, stop being a people pleaser, stop seeking validation from women, and start respecting yourself. Build confidence, strength, and authenticity instead of trying to impress others, then I can absolutely write a powerful Tony Robbins-style motivational speech around that theme. Can you confirm that's what you mean? Once you do, I'll write a full version that's bold, masculine, empowering, and focused on self-respect and emotional strength without being disrespectful to women. Stop seeking validation. Start owning your worth. Most men spend their lives chasing approval, especially from women, because deep down they've been conditioned to believe that their value depends on how others see them. They confuse kindness with validation, generosity with desperation, and attention with love. But let's be real, validation is a trap. It keeps you small, it keeps you dependent, it keeps you seeking permission to exist. When you constantly look for validation, you hand over your power. You say, tell me I'm enough so I can feel enough. That is emotional slavery. You don't need someone else's applause to feel valuable. Your worth isn't a democracy, it's a declaration. You decide, you define, you declare who you are, and the world adjusts. Most people live in reverse. They wait for someone to notice them, approve of them, choose them, love them, and only then do they start believing in themselves. But champions, leaders, those who stand tall in their power, they believe first and the world follows. You can't own your worth while you're begging for approval. You can't stand tall if your self-esteem depends on someone's reaction to you. The truth is, when you seek validation, you send out a signal of neediness, and neediness always repels respect. You can't lead from need. You can't attract power when you're operating from lack. Every time you act just to be liked, you dilute your presence. Every time you chase attention, you betray your authenticity. You start molding yourself into whatever pleases others, and soon you forget who you actually are. The moment you stop seeking validation is the moment you reclaim your freedom. It's the moment your energy changes. People feel it. Women feel it. The world feels it. You stop chasing, and suddenly you start attracting. Owning your worth means you walk into every room with quiet certainty. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to prove it. Your energy does the talking. When you own your worth, rejection doesn't shake you, criticism doesn't crush you, and praise doesn't inflate you. You become stable, grounded, unshakable. That's true confidence, not arrogance, not bravado, but an inner knowing that says, I am enough regardless. When you know your worth, you don't tolerate disrespect, you don't overextend to earn approval, and you don't compromise your values to please anyone. You can love deeply, but you don't lose yourself in love. You can give generously, but you don't give from emptiness. You operate from fullness, from wholeness, from strength. Too many men are afraid to be disliked. They confuse being nice with being valuable. They think if they're always agreeable, always available, always accommodating, they'll be loved more. But what actually happens is the opposite. They lose respect. Because when you bend too much, people stop seeing you as solid. They stop feeling safe around you because you don't even stand firm within yourself. The irony is, when you stop trying to please everyone, you become more magnetic. People are drawn to certainty. They crave presence. They respect someone who stands on their principles, even when it's inconvenient. That's what women actually respond to, not fake confidence, not forced charm, but authentic self-assurance that doesn't need validation to exist. When you stop seeking validation, your focus shifts from how do they see me to what do I stand for. You start living intentionally instead of reactively. You stop rehearsing your words in your head. You stop calculating your every move. You stop filtering your truth to avoid discomfort. You speak with conviction. You act with integrity. You live with direction. That's when your energy becomes powerful. Because the world doesn't reward people who blend in. It rewards people who stand out, who stand firm, who know who they are even when nobody claps. Owning your worth also means confronting the insecurities you've been running from. It's not about pretending to be confident. It's about facing the parts of yourself you've been hiding. The fear of rejection, the need for validation, the craving to be seen, they all stem from unhealed wounds. The moment you decide to heal, to stop outsourcing your self-esteem, to build it from within, everything changes. You stop performing and start being. You stop comparing and start creating. You stop begging for attention and start commanding respect. You must understand, your value doesn't increase when someone likes you, and it doesn't decrease when someone leaves you. Your worth isn't attached to your relationship status, your popularity, or your achievements. Those are expressions of your worth, not definitions of it. Real self-worth comes from knowing you are capable, deserving, and enough regardless of external validation. When you anchor into that truth, you stop chasing love and start embodying it. You stop looking for approval and start living from power. Every time you look in the mirror, you need to remind yourself that you are not here to impress anyone. You are here to express your potential, to fulfill your purpose, to live in truth. Approval will come and go, opinions will shift, but your worth must remain constant. When you own your worth, your relationships improve, not because you're trying harder, but because you're being real. You attract people who respect you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. You build connections based on authenticity, not performance. You become the kind of man who doesn't just seek love, he inspires it. Stop seeking validation. Stop asking for permission to be powerful. Stop shrinking to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You don't need to earn worth. You were born with it. The work is to remember it, to own it, to live it. Every time you choose self-respect over approval, you strengthen your spirit. Every time you choose authenticity over validation, you reclaim another piece of your soul. This is how you rise. This is how you grow. This is how you become the man who no longer begs to be seen, but commands presence simply by being who he truly is. Nice doesn't mean weak. Set boundaries and command respect. Too many people confuse being nice with being powerless. They think kindness means always saying yes, always being available, always putting others before themselves. But that's not kindness. That's fear wearing a smile. It's the fear of rejection, the fear of confrontation, the fear of being misunderstood. You've been told since childhood to be the nice guy, to please everyone, to avoid conflict, to stay agreeable. And for a while, it feels right. People like you, they praise your manners, they call you a good person. But inside, you start to feel invisible. You start realizing that your niceness isn't earning you respect, it's costing you power. You begin to resent how people take advantage of your time, your energy, your emotions. You notice how your kindness is mistaken for weakness, how your silence becomes permission for others to cross your boundaries. And that's when you have to make a choice. Keep being nice and stay small, or start being real and earn respect. Being nice without boundaries is self-betrayal. It's an endless loop of giving and hoping someone will finally appreciate you. But appreciation never comes from overextending yourself. It comes from standing firm in your truth. People don't respect those who constantly say yes. They respect those who mean it when they say no. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates that protect your peace, your focus, your energy. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you say no to yourself. And when you do that often enough, you lose your own voice. You stop knowing what you actually want. You wake up one day realizing you've been living to make others comfortable while neglecting your own growth. Kindness without strength is manipulation. It's doing good so you can be liked. True kindness has backbone. It's saying, I care about you, but I won't let you disrespect me. It's understanding that you can be loving and firm, gentle and strong, empathetic and assertive at the same time. Power and compassion are not opposites. They're partners. The most powerful people in the world are those who can love deeply but still demand respect. They don't raise their voice to prove strength. They command respect through their presence, their certainty, their alignment with their values. When you lack boundaries, people sense it. They push limits. They test how far they can go. It's not always out of malice. It's human nature. The world doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you demand. If you don't set the standard, someone else will, and it will rarely be in your favor. Boundaries tell people how to treat you. They define the line between mutual respect and emotional chaos. Without them, relationships become unbalanced. One person gives endlessly, the other takes without awareness. And eventually, resentment builds, connection fades, and you're left wondering why your kindness wasn't enough. You have to understand that saying no doesn't make you rude. It makes you real. The ability to say no without guilt is the ultimate expression of self-respect. When you say no, you're not rejecting people, you're protecting your priorities. You're reminding yourself that your time, your focus, and your peace matter. That's not selfish, that's essential. Boundaries are what allow you to give from a place of strength instead of depletion. When you have strong boundaries, your yes becomes more powerful because it's rooted in choice, not obligation. Being nice should never mean being a doormat. True niceness comes from a place of confidence, not insecurity. It's easy to be kind when you're not afraid of losing approval. But when your niceness is driven by fear, fear of conflict, fear of being alone, fear of disapproval, you're not being kind, you're being compliant. There's a difference between harmony and avoidance. Avoidance feels peaceful in the moment, but it creates long-term chaos. Confrontation, when done with clarity and calmness, creates real peace. It builds mutual understanding and respect. When you start setting boundaries, people will test you. They'll call you distant, cold, arrogant. That's because your change threatens their comfort. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will resist your growth. They'll say you've changed, and they're right. You've changed from someone who gave too much to someone who finally values themselves. Don't let guilt pull you back into the old pattern. Every strong person has faced that transition. You can't become respected if you're afraid of being misunderstood. Commanding respect is not about dominance, it's about alignment. It's about living in a way that communicates, I respect myself, and I expect the same from you. Respect is felt, not demanded. It's in how you walk, how you speak, how you handle adversity. It's in the tone of your no, the calm in your yes, the steadiness in your decisions. Respect begins when you stop negotiating your worth, when you stop lowering your standards to fit into someone else's comfort zone, when you stop explaining your boundaries as if they're up for debate. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Every time you allow someone to cross a line without consequence, you reinforce the behavior. Every time you shrink to avoid confrontation, you tell the world your comfort matters less than theirs. Respect is not earned through sacrifice, it's earned through self-respect. When you respect yourself enough to walk away from disrespect, you attract people who value your presence. When you set boundaries, you filter out chaos and make space for peace. You attract higher quality relationships, deeper connections, and more opportunities because your energy communicates clarity. There's nothing wrong with being nice, but be nice from a place of power. Be kind, not compliant. Be generous, but not gullible. Help others, but not at the expense of your own growth. Speak softly, but stand firmly. You can be the calm in the storm, but that doesn't mean you let the storm destroy you. Niceness rooted in strength inspires people. Niceness rooted in weakness exhausts you. You can still open doors for others, offer compassion, listen deeply. But you must also know when to close the door, when to say no, when to protect your time and your mental space. That's the balance of true strength. It's the balance between giving and guarding, between compassion and conviction. The world doesn't need more nice people who abandon themselves to please others. It needs more grounded people who embody strength through kindness and boundaries through love. When you set boundaries and command respect, you no longer live reactively. You stop bending for every request, every opinion, every emotional pull. You start leading your life instead of being led by everyone else's needs. You start moving from purpose instead of pressure. You become centered, focused, and powerful. And the most beautiful thing is, you still remain kind. But now, your kindness has depth, your generosity has intention, and your presence has power. Authenticity beats approval every time. Most people spend their entire lives performing for acceptance. They wear masks, play roles, and shift into whatever version of themselves will win them love, respect, or belonging. They become experts at pretending. They say what others want to hear, do what others expect, and hide the parts of themselves that might not be accepted. But every time you trade authenticity for approval, you lose a piece of your soul. You might win attention, but you lose peace. You might gain validation, but you sacrifice truth. Approval feels good for a moment, but authenticity feels powerful for a lifetime. The truth is, approval is an addiction. Once you start craving it, you never feel satisfied because it always depends on someone else's opinion. But authenticity, being who you really are, creates freedom. It doesn't depend on anyone's permission. It doesn't need applause to exist. It's not about who likes you. It's about who you become when you stop pretending. When you live for approval, you live in fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. You edit yourself constantly, worried about how you'll be perceived. You filter your truth, silence your voice, and shrink your dreams just to fit into someone else's comfort zone. That's not living, that's surviving. You can't grow in a cage built by other people's expectations. And yet, most people never escape that cage because they're addicted to being liked. But let me tell you something powerful, being liked is overrated. You don't need everyone to like you. You need to like yourself. You don't need to fit in. You need to stand out in truth. You don't need validation. You need alignment. Authenticity is not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about showing up with all your flaws, all your quirks, all your truth, and saying, this is me. It's about living in integrity with what you believe, not what people want you to believe. It's about making decisions based on your values, not your fears. The most magnetic people in the world aren't those who try to impress everyone. They're the ones who are unapologetically themselves. You feel their presence because it's genuine. They're not performing, they're being. You can't fake that energy. Realness has a vibration that pretenders can never replicate. When you stop chasing approval, you start attracting respect. People might not always agree with you, but they'll feel your authenticity. They'll trust you because your energy is clean, your words are congruent, and your actions match your principles. You're not bending for acceptance, you're standing in truth. That kind of presence commands admiration, not because it tries to, but because it's rare. Most people are stuck in the illusion of performance. They're constantly worried about how they look instead of who they are. But authenticity breaks that cycle. It liberates you from comparison, from pretending, from trying to prove yourself. It allows you to walk into every room without the need to be more or less than anyone else. You just are. The moment you choose authenticity, you will lose people. But you'll also gain the right ones. You'll lose fake approval, but you'll gain real respect. You'll lose temporary comfort, but you'll gain lasting confidence. Because when you stop being who the world told you to be, you start becoming who you were meant to be. And that's when life starts to align. Opportunities appear because you're finally showing up as your true self. The universe doesn't reward masks, it rewards truth. The relationships you build when you're authentic will be deeper, stronger, more fulfilling because they're based on who you actually are, not the character you play. It takes courage to be authentic in a world obsessed with appearances. It takes strength to stand for truth when everyone else is trying to blend in. But courage is the price of freedom. The more authentic you become, the less you fear judgment, because judgment can only hurt when you secretly doubt yourself. When you're anchored in authenticity, criticism doesn't shake you. You stop explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop negotiating your values to make others comfortable. You stop apologizing for being real. That's not arrogance. It's alignment. The need for approval is one of the biggest killers of potential. How many dreams have died because someone was afraid of what others would think? How many people play small because they fear being too much, too loud, too bold? You were not born to fit into a template. You were born to express your unique design. Your authenticity is your advantage. It's what makes you different, and difference is where power lies. The more you embrace who you are, the more unstoppable you become, because authenticity can't be competed with. It's original. Nobody can replicate your essence. Nobody can copy your energy. Nobody can replace your truth. You must understand that approval is temporary. It changes with trends, moods, opinions. One day you're praised, the next you're criticized. If you tie your worth to that, you'll be on an emotional roller coaster forever. But when you root your worth in authenticity, you become stable. You don't need the crowd to cheer because you know your direction. You don't need everyone to understand you because you understand yourself. That's where confidence is born, not from pretending to be fearless, but from knowing who you are and living in alignment with it, even when it's uncomfortable. Authenticity also means taking responsibility for your truth. It's not about blaming others for misunderstanding you. It's about communicating clearly, standing firm, and allowing your actions to speak. It's about being transparent in your intentions, consistent in your values, and unshakable in your purpose. When you live that way, life becomes lighter. You don't have to remember the role you're playing. You don't have to manage perceptions. You don't have to chase anyone's approval because your energy speaks louder than your words. You radiate clarity, and that's magnetic. Approval seeking drains your power because it makes you dependent on external validation. Authenticity restores your power because it makes you independent of it. You stop chasing acceptance and start creating alignment. You stop living to please and start living to express. You stop hiding your edges, your scars, your story, and you start owning them. The more real you are, the more freedom you feel. And the more freedom you feel, the more impact you create. Every person who ever changed the world had to choose authenticity over approval. They were criticized, misunderstood, rejected, but they stayed true. Because authenticity is the seed of greatness. It's the foundation of leadership, influence, and fulfillment. When you're authentic, you stop needing validation because you're already validated by your truth. You stop begging to be seen because your light can't be ignored. You stop performing because you finally realize you were never meant to act. You were meant to become. Confidence grows from purpose, not permission. Too many men live their lives waiting for someone to approve their choices, to validate their worth, or to grant them permission to act. They hesitate to speak, to move, to pursue their goals because they are subconsciously seeking an external stamp of legitimacy. But let me tell you, confidence is never given. It is earned. It is cultivated from within, and the soil it grows in is purpose. Purpose is the fuel that ignites action, the anchor that steadies you in storms, the compass that points you toward fulfillment. When your confidence comes from permission, it is fragile. It trembles with every criticism, wavers with every rejection, and collapses when approval is withdrawn. But when your confidence is rooted in purpose, it is unshakable. It does not bend to opinion. It does not falter with disapproval. It does not require permission because it is anchored in something deeper than external validation. Too many people confuse confidence with charisma or likability, but those are illusions. You can be charming, witty, or socially skilled, yet still lack true confidence if your actions are driven by the need to be approved. Confidence is not about impressing others. It is about knowing yourself, your direction, and your value. It is about acting in alignment with your principles regardless of who is watching. Purpose gives you that alignment. When you know why you are here, what you are striving for, and what you refuse to compromise, confidence becomes natural. You no longer need to rehearse, calculate, or seek permission. You move forward because you are anchored, driven, and committed. Purpose gives you clarity. It makes your decisions easy because they are guided by a principle, not by the fear of disapproval. When your purpose is clear, the opinions of others cannot derail you. You no longer ask, is this okay? Or will they approve? Because your actions are not seeking validation. They are expressions of direction. When you live without purpose, every choice is uncertain. Every interaction is a negotiation. Every step forward is tentative. You wander aimlessly, hoping someone will notice, hoping someone will approve, hoping someone will tell you that your existence is meaningful. That is not confidence. That is dependency. Purpose eliminates the dependency. It creates an internal authority that no one can revoke. Many men underestimate the power of alignment between action and purpose. You can train your body, sharpen your skills, and study the strategies of successful people, but if your actions are disconnected from your purpose, your confidence will always be conditional. You will perform well under praise and crumble under criticism. You will shine in comfort zones and fade in challenges. But when you align your actions with purpose, every effort becomes meaningful. Every challenge becomes an opportunity. Every setback becomes a lesson. Your confidence grows because it is rooted in reality, not in fantasy. It grows because it is based on what you do, not what others think. Purpose also fuels resilience, which is the backbone of confidence. Life will test you. Opportunities will be denied, relationships will falter, mistakes will happen, and failures will appear. Without purpose, these moments can crush you because you see them as reflections of your worth. With purpose, they become part of the journey. You understand that failure is not a verdict on your value. It is feedback information, a stepping stone toward mastery. Confidence built on purpose does not crumble in adversity. It adapts, persists, and grows stronger. The more you confront challenges aligned with your purpose, the more evidence you gather that you are capable, worthy, and unstoppable. When your confidence is built on purpose, you no longer need permission to take risks. Risk becomes a calculated step toward your vision, not a reckless gamble to prove yourself. Fear of judgment diminishes because you understand that what matters is alignment, not approval. You no longer waste energy performing for others because your energy is focused on creating, achieving, and growing. People who live without purpose often feel paralyzed by opinion. They wait for someone to green light their lives. But when you have purpose, you give yourself permission, and that is infinitely more powerful than any external validation could ever be. Purpose also clarifies priorities. When you know why you are doing something, you automatically filter out distractions, shallow relationships, and trivial pursuits. You stop giving time and energy to those who do not align with your values or vision. That clarity produces confidence because you are no longer torn by indecision or people-pleasing. Every yes and no becomes intentional. Every action becomes a statement of who you are and what you stand for. Confidence grows when life is streamlined by purpose because you are no longer caught in the chaos of trying to please everyone. You are focused on what matters most. Another critical element is that confidence from purpose is sustainable. Confidence based on permission is fragile and fleeting because it relies on external factors. One word, one look, one criticism can undermine it. Confidence rooted in purpose is self-reinforcing. Every small action toward your purpose reinforces your identity. Every challenge overcome, every goal achieved, every principled decision strengthens your sense of self. This creates momentum that compounds over time. Purpose is not temporary. It is the foundation upon which lasting confidence is built. Purpose also enhances authenticity, which is another source of magnetic confidence. When your actions are aligned with what you truly believe and value, you stop performing for approval. You become genuine and people respond to that energy. Authenticity breeds respect, trust, and influence because it communicates stability and certainty. Confidence that comes from trying to please others is performative. Confidence that comes from purpose is innate. People sense it, and it attracts opportunities. allies, and collaborators. Finally, confidence built on purpose frees you from comparison. When you operate from purpose, you are not measuring yourself against others' standards or trying to outshine anyone. You are operating from your own metric, your own direction, your own potential. You become immune to envy, immune to judgment, and immune to the constant pressure of external expectation. Purpose allows you to focus entirely on growth, contribution, and mastery rather than validation or competition. This internal compass creates a clarity and calmness that others interpret as confidence. If you want to grow unshakable confidence, stop asking for permission. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you that you are enough, that you are capable, or that you are worthy. Those things are not granted externally, they are cultivated internally, and the seed is purpose. Find your why, anchor your life to it, and let it guide every action, every choice, and every interaction. Confidence will not come overnight, but every step aligned with purpose strengthens it. The more you act from conviction rather than approval, the more your energy shifts, the more your presence commands attention, the more your life begins to reflect the power you've been cultivating inside. Confidence that grows from purpose is unshakable, magnetic, and enduring. It transforms the way you interact with the world, the way you pursue goals, the way you overcome obstacles, and the way you lead your life. It makes external validation irrelevant because your inner authority is absolute. It makes challenges feel like fuel because your direction is unmovable. It makes every decision intentional because your values are clear. Purpose is not just an idea. It is the engine of confidence. And the man who understands this will never have to ask for permission to live powerfully, boldly, and fully lead with strength, not with need. Too many people approach life, relationships, and opportunities from a place of lack. They want validation, attention, affection, or approval before they feel worthy of giving their best. They operate from need, from desperation, from the belief that unless someone confirms their value, they cannot move forward, cannot assert themselves, cannot step into their power. But leading with need is weak. It signals insecurity, uncertainty, and instability. People are instinctively drawn to strength, not to need. Strength is magnetic because it is self-contained, self-sufficient, and unwavering. When you lead from strength, you influence naturally. When you lead from need, you beg silently for permission to exist, to be seen, to be valued, and that diminishes your energy and presence. Strength begins internally. It is the product of self-respect, self-discipline, and self-awareness. It is the refusal to allow external circumstances, opinions, or rejection to define your identity. A man who leads with strength does not plead for attention, he commands it. He does not negotiate his worth, he expresses it. He does not rely on others to feel complete, he operates from wholeness. Strength is rooted in purpose, clarity, and conviction. It grows when you take responsibility for your life instead of blaming others, when you act decisively instead of hesitating, and when you set boundaries instead of compromising to appease. Leading with strength is not arrogance, it is the natural outcome of alignment with your values and principles. Need, on the other hand, corrodes confidence. When you lead from need, every decision becomes reactive, every interaction becomes transactional, and every emotion becomes contingent on someone else's approval. Need drives you to overgive, over-explain, and overcompensate. It causes you to attach to outcomes that are not guaranteed and to depend on the goodwill of others to feel satisfied. But the world does not reward desperation. It rewards presence, initiative, and integrity. Strength attracts opportunity, respect, and genuine connection because it radiates certainty. Need repels because it signals instability, imbalance, and dependency. To lead must first become strong internally. This means cultivating emotional resilience, mental clarity, and physical vitality. Emotional resilience allows you to remain centered under pressure, to respond rather than react, and to maintain calm in the face of challenge. Mental clarity allows you to prioritize what matters, to make decisions confidently, and to focus your energy on high-value actions. Physical vitality ensures that your energy matches your intention, that your presence is felt, and that your body communicates confidence. Strength is holistic. It is mind, body, and spirit operating in harmony, and it is cultivated through consistent action and conscious choice. A strong leader also sets boundaries without apology. He understands that saying no does not make him selfish, it makes him aligned. He knows that protecting his time, energy, and focus is essential to achieving his purpose. Boundaries communicate strength because they signal that you value yourself and your priorities. People respect those who hold firm, who do not bend to pressure, and who act in integrity with their values. Leading with strength is not about controlling others. It is about controlling yourself. It is about mastering your inner state so that your influence flows naturally without manipulation or coercion. Need-driven behavior often stems from fear, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. These fears are natural, but they must be acknowledged and transcended. Leading with strength means facing fear directly and refusing to let it dictate your actions. It means acting decisively despite uncertainty. It means creating momentum through courage, not through reliance on external validation. Every time you choose strength over need, you reinforce your confidence, your autonomy, and your influence. You stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. Leading with strength also requires authenticity. Strength is not performative, it is genuine. It is expressed through honesty, integrity, and alignment with your values. When you are authentic, you communicate certainty without arrogance. You inspire trust without coercion. People feel your presence, your stability, and your commitment because it is real. In contrast, leading from need is performative. You try to impress, please, or manipulate others to fill a void inside. That energy is transparent, and it undermines your credibility and influence. Authentic strength attracts opportunity because it is rooted in truth, not in desire for approval. Another critical aspect of leading with strength is self-reliance. A man who depends on others to feel validated, secure, or successful is inherently unstable. He is at the mercy of opinions, moods, and external circumstances. But when you cultivate self-reliance, you anchor yourself internally. You become accountable to yourself, not to others. You make decisions based on principle, not on what will win approval or avoid conflict. You create momentum through your own actions, not through dependency. Self-reliance amplifies strength because it removes the need for permission or validation and replaces it with internal authority. Strength also transforms relationships. When you lead from need, relationships are imbalanced. You give too much, demand too much, and unconsciously transmit insecurity. People sense it, and the dynamic becomes strained, unsustainable, or superficial. When you lead with strength, relationships are balanced, reciprocal, and grounded in respect. You offer your best because you are whole, not because you are seeking to fill a void. You inspire loyalty because your presence is consistent. You attract high-quality connections because your energy communicates stability and self-assurance. Leading with strength requires discipline. Strength is not a feeling, it is a practice. It is built through consistent action, accountability, and commitment to growth. Every decision you make, every habit you cultivate, every boundary you enforce reinforces your strength. You cannot selectively lead with strength. It must permeate every area of life, your career, your relationships, your health, and your personal development. The man who is disciplined in small things carries that authority into larger challenges because he has proven to himself that he can control his actions, emotions, and priorities. Strength also generates influence. People follow leaders who are grounded, decisive, and aligned. Influence is not forced, it is felt. When you operate from need, influence becomes transactional. You try to manipulate, convince, or please to gain cooperation. When you operate from strength, influence is natural. People respond to your certainty, respect your boundaries, and trust your judgment. Strength creates authority without intimidation because it comes from competence, presence, and clarity of purpose. Finally, leading with strength cultivates inner peace. Need creates anxiety, down emotional turbulence because it ties your well-being to external factors. Strength creates stability, calm, and confidence because it roots your sense of worth and power internally. When you lead with strength, you are free from the compulsive need to be approved, liked, or validated. You act from principle, not from desperation. You pursue goals with clarity, communicate with authority, and live with integrity. Your energy shifts, your presence changes, and your life begins to reflect the power, confidence, and influence that only come from leading with strength, not with need.